Hey, what's up? So one of the things I wanted to start doing was actually carve some of my followers' logos. So I think this will be interesting and fun to kind of go through all my followers and see what all logos are out there, what kind of small businesses we have going on, makers, creators, video creators. I want to do all of that. So I think this would be a cool thing to do. This is my first one. I already started stage one, as you can see. Need to go ahead and throw a quick coat of sanding sealer on before I apply the first round of epoxy. I use Seal Coat by Bullseye. Really can't beat this stuff. What this does is it seals the wood so that the epoxy, when it's curing, does not actually discolor the wood around it. We'll let this dry about 45 minutes before hitting it with a quick sanding. And we'll hit the first round of epoxy. So what I like to do is I like to draw a corner and pencil on my wasteboard. So this way I can line it back up exactly where it used to be. I also take a picture of the home screen, so that way I know the coordinates of exactly where the X and Y used to be. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the plywood back on the corner and then make sure that the numbers line up to how they were before I took the piece of plywood off. Okay, so I have my bit zeroed to this piece of plywood now, so my X and Y are accurate. I've double checked the coordinates on the main screen. I have my program loaded up, and I'm going to go ahead and get this next circle carved out so we can pour the yellow. So this is where we're at. So what I have to do now is go ahead and surface this. Piece of work is completely level, and then we can add the tabletop epoxy. Success! I don't know about you guys, but I do not want an epoxy related illness. I highly recommend getting a mask like this to avoid that. Anyways. I tested my circle. I'm at the stage now where I need to cut out the entire thing out of the plywood so that I can go ahead and finish this. I tested out the circle that I was about to use to cut this out, and it turned out that I was actually off by 0.6 inches. So if I were to have actually run that tool path with the bit in, I would have cut a lot of the color out of this. Just a quick point, you know, always test out your tool path before you actually make the cut. Hopefully that will save you some time. I've got everything exactly like I want it. I went ahead and put a bevel on the outside of this circle with my router table. Right now, the only thing that's left to do is go ahead and throw the tabletop epoxy on top of it. What that's going to do is fill in all of the small tiny holes that are on top of this layer that was surfaced recently. That will give this a crystal clear look. So this is really the last chance that I have to screw this up. This is about a week's worth of work, so hopefully it goes well. When you're doing these tabletop epoxy projects, one thing that you want to make sure of is that your workpiece is actually level. So I did a little bit of reorganization here to make sure that I had a level work surface, and also I laid down some shop rags. This isn't going to protect the surface from the epoxy, but this will catch a lot of the epoxy so that I can clean it up afterwards. You are going to have some runoff running off down the bevel here, so that will contact your work surface. I really love how the tabletop epoxy brings this piece to life. This is looking really good. My primary goal right now, the epoxy has pretty much self-leveled. So my primary goal is to keep the bubbles out of the epoxy while it sets. If I can keep the bubbles out. So this is dry now. This looks really good, but if you look really closely in the gloss, you can see that I've got some minor imperfections. You can kind of see that there. It's not completely surface, and I do have some divots in the epoxy there. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand it down a little bit and then go ahead and give it a second coat. So this is the first reveal that I'm doing. I really enjoyed making this. Some of the lessons learned that I had, specifically the tabletop epoxy. So make sure when you're using tabletop epoxy that you pour enough epoxy. If you're doing a flood coat, then it has to be exactly that, completely flooded. If you don't have enough epoxy, you're not going to have that level surface. So that's why I ended up having to do 3 coats of epoxy here. The third coat is not in the actual video because the second coat ended up having waves in it after it dried. So I had to go ahead and sand that out, and then I dumped the third coat, which ended up being about 24 ounces. Every time I do a project, I learn something new. This is it. Project Dad Life. I really like it. This is probably the best one I've done so far. So at Project Dad Life, I hope you really enjoy it. I hope you can do something cool with it. By the time you see this video, this will already be in the mail on its way to you. So again, I hope you enjoy it. I had a great time making it. If you're new to my YouTube channel, hit subscribe. Give me a like if you like stuff like this or you enjoy my work. That really helps me out as a creator slash maker. So that's awesome. Head on over to my Instagram channel where you can see the reveal and some of my other projects.